Hey, John. Well, it's been a great day. We've been watching the Hometown Heroes game. Now, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, they're struggling a little bit. RPD is winning so far, but hey, there's still a lot of game left to be played here.
Definitely don't know how to dance, but it's contagious. Because take a look behind me, you can see all these guys having a good time. Say hi, guys!
Because of the shortage here in the district, they're the ones who are forced to pick up the slack.
Well, Adam, the $5 million is going to help homeowners along the lakeshore here who qualify for this assistance.
Ross also says that he and the sheriff's office don't know who was driving the car, being that the car was under about 17 feet of water.
Move! Up!
They say practice makes perfect.
There's no room for error.
Well, this job depends on it.
You have to be proficient, you have to be effective, and you have to win.
This is the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force.
We train against the worst of the worst.
And they serve violent felony warrants for crimes like homicide, sex offenses, drugs, and weapons possession.
We always put ourselves in the worst scenarios and we get ourselves out of them. We never lose, we always win. That's what training is for.
The task force is made up of officers from the U.S. Marshal Service, the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, Rochester Police, Border Patrol, Immigration and Customs, and State Police. Officers from outside agencies rotate out every 3 years to give others a chance to participate and to make sure they don't get recognized by criminals.
Every agency has their own department standards. Everybody trains differently, so it's important as a task force we all train together.
Abai Dave has been with the U.S. Marshal's office for nearly 10 years. He says training isn't just important, it's imperative.
We're always here to better ourselves. So, that's what training is for. I feel every day I walk away from training, I've gotten that much better.
On this training day, these officers must work at the Rush shooting range in the rain.
We don't stop just because it's raining.
Scott Smith is a sergeant with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office and assigned to the force. Here, he happens to be leading target practice.
Like most police officers, we'll go through our entire careers without ever firing a shot in anger. But with that said, you need to be prepared for that possibility, that 1% possibility.
Yes, they not only need an accurate shot,
Police, search warrant!
they sometimes need to force their way into a house or apartment. That's if the suspects inside aren't cooperating. It too takes practice.
We don't do this a lot because we try to do the path of least resistance where we can knock on the door and talk to people. But if we have to do this, we will.
They do what they say is necessary to catch who they say are the bad guys.
It might be him on the front porch.
And usually that arrest happens without warning.
It's a familiar pour for Western New Yorkers, a cold glass of Genesee beer. For 137 years, this is the place that brews your Jenny, the Genesee Brewery. And the people who turn water, not from the Genesee River, into an adult beverage take their job tremendously seriously.
They expect to have the same beer every time, and we want to give that to them.
Once a day, the bosses in the brewery take time to make sure everything tastes just right. While testing the product may seem like the greatest job in the world, and it may be, it's a little more complicated than you might think. These brewmasters are looking for the faintest deficiency in all of their beers.
Consistency is extremely important.
Now, most Western New Yorkers have dabbled with a Jenny Light or two, if they're old enough, of course. But what about something new? Well, that's what they're working on here at the Genesee Brewery.
I can brew whatever I want. So they keep asking me, what are you brewing today? I'm like, I don't know, I haven't figured it out yet. I'll tell you when I get into the office.
This is Dean Jones. He's the brewmaster for the pilot program in the brew house. And this is his laboratory. He's sort of a mad scientist when it comes to creating the newest kinds of craft beer. Dean's been brewing his crazy concoctions for the past few years, and customers at the brew house won't stop guzzling them down.
So since we first opened, the beers that we've been producing here have been selling out faster than I can make them.
So Dean wants to take his delectable creations to the next level. Some of his brews have been kegged and sold at local bars, but his pilot beers have never been bottled to sell at stores, a process that is not easy.
It's not like you were making hot dogs. You want to make 50 hot dogs, now you have 100.
Dean makes beer in 20-barrel batches. We make beer in 5 or 1,000-barrel batches.
The century-old brewery is made for brewing Jenny, so making a craft-style beer is proving to be a challenge for the brewmasters.
it takes a lot in this big facility to scale those up.
Quickly adding a dash of a mystery ingredient to a beer in the pilot brew house would mean adding pounds upon pounds in the same amount of time in the big brewery next door. But challenges aside, the Genesee Brewery is looking to mass produce a beer created in the pilot program, something the brewmasters say is crucial to keep up with competition.
In order for us to maintain relevance, I believe that we do have to move into that, just like every other big brewery is either buying up small breweries or participating in that market. You have to.
What will this new beer be like? And when will it be introduced? That's still top secret at the brewery. But during the daily sampling, we did try a mystery beer, and it tasted all right to me. Reporting from the Genesee Brewery, Jeff Rusak, News 8.
The story of sex trafficking doesn't start on the street. It often starts at a home built on the pretense of security.
I grew up in a suburb of Western New York, went to good Catholic schools.
But I grew up with two parents, although they got divorced, they were both two loving parents that were there.
But like so many other teenagers, both Stephanie and Caitlin were ensnared by addiction.
I was not in a very good place in my life. I was drinking alcoholically.
My mom found out I was using, and I did go to rehab and everything, but then I relapsed, and I was afraid of getting caught. So after I relapsed, I kind of just stayed out for hours and never came home. And then this happened.
A predator saw their vulnerability and struck.
My family pretty much didn't have a whole lot to do with me at this point, and he offered me a place to stay.
I didn't understand what was going on. At this point, I wasn't clear-minded at all. I mean, I just wanted to get high.
The addiction became the shackle. Fear of physical violence and homelessness, the chain.
Then he brought me to New York City and put me on the street.
I wasn't allowed to eat. I wasn't allowed to sleep. I mean, day in, day out, if someone called, it was, let's go, let's go. I wanted my mom. I'm gonna cry. Okay, I wanted my parents, you know. I wanted to leave. I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to, you know, can I go home? We were on our way to a client's house, and we stopped at a red light, and I was so desperate to get out, I just ran out of the car, and I knocked on every door possible on that street until somebody answered, and I hid there.
U.S. prosecutors in Western New York picked up the case. They also backed Caitlin, who, after being trafficked and arrested all over the country for 8 years, was finally seen not as a criminal, but as a victim.
They saw my medical records where he had put me in the hospital for assaults over 20 times.
So do you think that society needs to change their perception of how this works?
Absolutely. The face of sex trafficking is more like the runaway teenager or, you know, a battered woman.
Caitlin and Stephanie met by chance after their escape and discovered while talking their trafficker was the same man, Kenneth White. His operation was so intricate the two women never knew each other, but they know each other now. And they're both helping fellow survivors while White serves 13 years in prison.
I did marry a wonderful man, and I went back to school, whole 4.0. I've been accepted to the master's program at University of Buffalo for social work.
She also has two kids. Same with Stephanie.
I think my purpose is to not only help others, but to be a good mother and raise them. And to have that blessing, like, just shows that, like, I'm finally worth something.
Stephanie and Caitlin's story didn't start on the street, and because of their resolve, it's not going to end there.